가서다. 당아주 드링디 가서 그래. 다 가서님만 차지 때문에 신체제 아니 랍지 니슈트루 바당 아니 랍지 접게 봐. 또 지금 로토나 삼브레데 안고 지금 투수였당 양고 가서 그래. 먼저 차진당 망부지 된지 다래 지금 랍지 접게 받대 다 달래 드라마토리 이나양 다지게 랍지 니슈트 랍지 접게디 누버등에 연하면나데 아다 랍지 니슈트로 차되디 그데 얘기 다지게 가서 그래 시부지 야보다 게 시에도 말데 이나양 카운터도 랍지 시가치 이렇게 되니
And so, according to the sort of plan that we conceived for the retreat, where we plan to go through the two chapters, the 26th chapter, and then after that, the 18th chapter. And then, due to some time constraints and also other conditions, it wasn't possible. It's not been possible for me to be able to go fully through the 18th chapter. That's not been possible to do. But then I've tried to explain as much as I can from my understanding about the details of this 26th chapter that we've been talking about, and also trying to relate it a little bit to the earlier chapter. But basically, I've tried to explain as much as I can from my own side and on my own abilities, the details and the important details of the chapter 26.
다 개체셔야돼 알아줘 아니 동이 생애돼 개체 뭐 가서 지금 차기 예 가서 차기 예면데 가서 지금 안에 지금 탕도를 삼바도 축침 보여 받아 대한 탕도에서 돼 가상 아주 단다지 가서 지단에 아니 머리벌에 타르서 해야 돼 개도 첨부를 돼 개체셔야돼 땅 알아서 레다니 몽기 상황진기 풍부함 아니 깨와되네 타르바지 뭐 총나 기비님은 세야 다음에 땐도 대비 대화세도 토야 매바디 타 쳐바지르샤 섬섬지기 로드니지게 베게 첨부했어.
So then we've been in terms of this topic that we've been discussing a lot about here in terms of voidness, about how important this voidness, this emptiness is, and however important that is, and however strong our understanding of that is, it's very important that that strengthens our mind, the mind that wishes to achieve liberation. But we should also be careful not to just focus on that wish for liberation in the sense of being liberated from ignorance, but also put that in the broader context of wishing to achieve a freedom from the aggregates, which are the aggregates and birth itself, which are caused by the karma and the mental afflictions, and then having this sense that unless we do this, unless we attain this freedom, there will be no way to get any kind of lasting, stable kind of happiness.
다 딘데지 인도점에 아니 단다 산지 좀 딘데기 아니 예주 예보 대주 상보라야 아니 시팅 송서들 봐 시팅 송서디 예보디 챤라 예보 대주 상보서 봐
대주 상보
그 sanskrit 맹신규베
싱메 대주 상보
letter to a friend
who was the king
the king that Nagarjuna sends a letter to a friend.
Udayana was it? Okay, the king Udayana. Yeah.
제상가 우디야나리야. 아니 다치기 최송백갑이야. 아니 다제부처럼 소남침부시다레스. 소남침부.
예.
아니 denjogu milu rinpoche top tang one tane kechi shode 가르쳐 오래서는 키랑기다 네바 강요 된지 아니 깨워가고리스. This one.
Yeah. And so in Nagarjuna's treatise on the a letter to a friend, where he gives a teaching to within this text gives a teaching to Udayana, the king Udayana, and he and in that text he says to the king, "Oh, you're a king. You're one of sort of great merit. You have great merit. You've achieved this precious human rebirth with its complete with its leisures and endowments. And so now, what are you going to do with this opportunity?" And he says, "What you have to do with this opportunity is you need to put an end to birth."
제가 되게 깨워가고를 송두선배 니 깨워 아니 가야게 삼로들이야 좀된 되게 아니 지기 알아줘다 레다 녀몽기 상황진도 깨워들라 안 가수 지기 들려야 지기 직전보다 자전보다 지제 제베이나 텔레 지기 마외 아니 치술 레다 녀몽고 왕기 단도 미대와도 뭐지와 마용도 선배 또 달행기 밀리 준비치 된지 토서베 쇼더라 딱 가르쳐 그랬어도 깨워가 그랬어 깨워가던데 아니 레다 녀몽 니리야 니부때 뒤에 나네 아니 담에도 비셔럽 통을 될때니 아니 저랑 코알을 쪽으로 쳐버리 시지 럽제 되는 것도 봐.
And so the advice that's contained to the king, sort of, the advice from the degi, so nanzulu so what
Gebula.
Get shung nang
Gebula.
So in the text, it's sort of the advice continues to, in terms of this putting what is meant here by putting an end to birth, and it talks about the putting an end to the birth which is driven by the karma and mental afflictions, and yet even though we value this, even though we have, even attaining a precious human rebirth replete with these qualities of the leisures and endowments, and we may value, place a high value on this form of birth, and but still, even with this precious human rebirth and this great opportunity, this is still created by the karma and the mental afflictions, and still will continue to lead us to will continue to be a source of pain and unhappiness for us. And so what needs to be done in order to, we have to be able to counteract and apply the antidote to the karma and the mental afflictions, and therefore, in order to put an end to even this kind of birth, that we have to apply the antidotes to the karma and mental afflictions, and the antidote to those to that is the wisdom that realizes selflessness. So this is how the king is advised.
제정가다 깨워가고를 세야당 동행기 깨워 집에 깨워디 가고를 동행 치마 깨워 집에 단대기 안자를 깨워 주요레스. 봐. 단대강주 깨웠어야 돼. 동행 깨버 집에 깨웠어. 깨워 치말래 동행 깨버 집에 깨워 가지고 요러 봐. 제장가 된지기 깨워 됐다. 가고레스. 딩안조다. 개벌이야 송번나 신체 알안줘야 랍제디 고고로 봐.
So we also need to take just as the advice was presented to the king, we also need to take this advice to heart ourselves, in relation to ourselves. And so here, when it talks about putting an end to birth, what it's doing is putting an end to birth, which is the cause of suffering, and particularly in this context, the cause of the suffering which will also come in future lives. So this birth, our future life, this life and the future lives. So the birth here is the cause of suffering, and so that's what we need to put an end to. So this is something we must take to heart too, this advice.
제장가 by the Buddha giving a teaching to the king, and then automatically the king had so much inspiration, and then but but doesn't necessarily that he thought I should become a monk. Right?
yeah.
He didn't thought like I should become monk and give up with my kingdom and everything. So then automatically the king have an understanding. Now whatever, starting from today, without any clinking, without any grasping, now I have to 가서 그랬다 짐바당 아니 지기 녀모비 샤마노 만들어 지지 얘기다 롱제디 좀 전에 까난 것도 우세도 고고였어.
So the Buddha gave this advice, or sort of a command, to sort of to give up on the, to give up on the what he's talking about here is giving up on the grasping, to not be under the sway of under this power of these other forces, such as the grasping and the mental afflictions. So that's he sort of almost like commanded us to prevent that from happening.
제장가 다 란주기 지 가서래 다 미지 나로라다 지기 자와치에 망부여래 란주를 다 배지기 지기 초와계고 그러봐 아니 지기 초와계고도 잠배다 지기 유노 론주 두비알로 소바다 로정체야로 소바다 다 란주 미지 나로다 지기 시부지기 남랑 망부지 요래대 당 란주 개체셔야 되다. 어르신이 오르베다. 자라로부터 가르래도 슬라베는 다 삼로마다는 니주 가가르마도 지게 삼로시 땅바이나 알아는주 규리야 가수수 유나 교노벤주 롱주 가수 유나 민 가수수 유나 당동양 알아는줄이야 먼지 되냐데 알아는주 당진기 왕기 또 순로베이나 알아는줄이야 지게 점불링기 나로 되네 당아주다 규치슈 민치슈 깨라치슈 차베인 당동양 알아는줄 간이지 대대버렸어. 대연주 전배다 되게 가르치는 것도서나 알아는줄 규라 개대 다도 전배 당진주 여바 티세도 알아는줄 뭐지부지 임바 타셔버진 건 주다. 가르쳐 그래. 최 켈링겐신이다. 켈링겐 멤버이네다. 다디 아저기 르베기 두보고 연나지 롱그 두보고 연나게 다 우투자서 찍들이셨어.
And so sorry, one second. And then in terms of the way, in our daily lives, we have many activities in our daily lives. We have to do a whole range of different things in order for our own, for instance, for our livelihood and the way we live lives. There are many activities we do, such as work, study, the whole range of activities within. These are the whole range of activities within our lives. But what is urgent, what is the main thing, and what is urgent is, if we don't think about it at all, that's it. For people who don't think about it at all, that's a different matter. But for us who are thinking about this a little bit, then we must remember that however much our a greater name we have, however much wealth and possessions and fame, all of these things, however much we have, we still have to understand that it's all of these things are not okay if we're still under the power of the self-grasping. And we see how even in this world, those of the most famous, the most wealthy, and those of greatest name and repute in the world, we see that they still have difficulties, they still have problems. And so the context that what we have to sort of make effort to do is to, whether this is through reason or whether it's through scriptural quotations but bringing, however we do it, we must bring this understanding that as long as the self-grasping remains, as long as that remains, the unhappiness will remain. And whether we're this is whether true for those who are Dharma practitioners or not. It's just, but for us, particularly as Dharma practitioners, understanding as long as the self-grasping is there is always going to be some form of unhappiness. So that is something which is urgent, and we must pay great attention to.
다 디인도 잠베 아니 아란조 남샤 준도 지기 최세야다 라마세야다 기회 신예세야도 아니 지기 지게든 좀 영어시 뭐만 뭐 알게지 지그려 봐. 아 지기 라마 야고지 고도스. 아니 라마 야고지 관으라 그래 세선도들 기제들 지그려 봐. 또 이나야 라마 야고세야다. 라마들 연된 가르고 그래세야다. 아니 말을 가르고 그래. 라마 델라 ngal tembe 연된 가르고 그래야 돼. 디 주바디 시라마담 체. 라마 야고 생일 과요에 생겨서 그게 지원도 잠베 렌잡 하고 싶어 봐.
And so when a lot of sort of friends have asked me about these, normally in the Dharma we talk about the particularly in terms of the gurus and spiritual friends and the importance of these in the Dharma. And then many people come to me and say, I want to find a good teacher. Can you tell me where I can find a good teacher? So these are the questions that are very commonly asked to me. But what I find much less common, the questions that people much less commonly ask are, what qualities do I need to find in the spiritual friend or the guru? What are the necessary qualities in the spiritual friend and the guru? What is that I need in relationship to the spiritual friend and the guru? And these questions are much more rarely asked, and people instead just ask me where to find a good teacher. Without asking the other questions, it's very difficult for me to give an answer to where you could find a good spiritual teacher.
So now you go through the 26th chapter again and again, and then you will automatically find like one kind of a greatest question, like, can I get out from the samsara? Can I achieve liberation? Then whoever who can guide me or lead me or help me on that path, I will take him as a teacher. I will take him as a guru. No doubt. 저 제상가 딘제 인도점에 아니 가르쳐 그래. 다 상제 좀 된 되기 맛이다. rab지 접지 나로. 된두시고 봐. rab지 접지 나로래야. 아니 상제 좀 된 되기 지금 다음에 라바 땜바다. 메다바 참여 남샤 땜바다. 아니 타나 레 윤제게 남샤 땜바다. 간데 취어 간데 지 송바다다 탐제 아니 가르쳐도 송버리 있을랍니다. 시에토그레 있을랍나. 상제 좀 되는 랑 송버 봐. 얘들다 탐제 가르쳐도 시에비 있어도 아니 다음에 봐. 다음에 남샤 통배쳐도 코알로 퇴배쳐도 짐바들레 노배쳐도 니 아니 취 땜바이 대다 탐제 땜바티.
And so we see in the here in the 18th chapter, and in terms of and what and also what the Buddha tells us himself, is that in terms of whatever whether I'm talking about the sort of coarser forms of selflessness or things presentation of sort of the law of karmic cause and effect. Everything that the Buddha says to us, what is the purpose for why I've spoken about all these different subjects, and he says the purpose that the real purpose that I've spoken about these things is to for the purpose of understanding selflessness, for the purpose of being able to be liberated from samsara. For the purpose of reducing and getting rid of our grasping. So these are the purposes by which I spoke about all these different subjects.
Mm-hmm. So now it comes to the conclusion why emptiness and the selflessness or the voidness becomes so important. So important, so important for one reason, because we love ourselves so much, but we don't know how to take care of ourselves. And then to reduce, to eliminate this self-grasping, then that's a peace. If still with the self-grasping, no peace. If you can say this, so powerful. Even not understanding, just say it. Just say it. And then slowly, with these words you say, and then try to feel it. Then somehow you feel like, because I want the ultimate happiness, which without a grasping, without so much kind of narrow-minded, that I still wanted to be do so many activities without leaving any stains, not contributing some kind of the karma to ripen for the future lives, to bring the continuation of the suffering anymore. So that's why I'm practicing Dharma. And with this understanding, you try to practice, do your commitments, and then listen to the teachings. Then this is a way to start Dharma, as Buddha has given the teaching to the king. Udayana. And then unless we don't see this kind of how to search Dharma, like this searching of Dharma, if we go without asking how to eliminate the self-grasping and the liberation, and whatever you do Dharma, you have to come to the conclusion and kind of agreement to yourself, sign, not any Dharma anymore. 100%. Even you say Om Mani Padme Hum, or you take a refuge, make a seal. Buddha has already done that for us. So now that you have to come to that. So namju diju ba tumba shi si gi ba tumba shi kansar ma de chöl.
Yeah. So there's this what I talked about as the four reliances.
So tambodi kare.
Kasidi tambodi.
Yeah. Tambodi di ba yuda. Kansar ma de chöl den sibe.
Yes, don't rely on the person, rely on the dharma, the teaching, the dharma teaching.
아니, 가서
Siglamaden.
tambodiri. Tsiglamaden tönle döns.
So don't rely on the words, but rely on the meaning.
아니, 남실 마도 이실 döns.
Don't rely on ordinary consciousness, but rely on deep awareness or this exalted wisdom, something like that. Primordial wisdom or exalted wisdom. Yeah.
맞지. 아니, 가서 장대마도 예전 döns을.
Yes, and also I think the third one is don't rely on the interpretive meaning, but rely on the definitive meaning.
시상소.
Shisans.
오케이. 제장같아 디나로네 마란주 샴바도 주다 도지 되게 제가 지그래데 이내 마란주 시가 나올이야. 아니 철마도 강사를 된 세주. 마란주로 시가 디요.
알아요.
강사마도 철 된 시가 디요 말에 강사를 된 아니 신의 철 된에 손을 지요. 그래서 오늘 산재 좀 된데 가르쳐 버려 당부 철을 된 거랬어.
Yeah.
아니 쇼네 강사를 된 거랬어.
난수주탄이기 지단이기 강사를 된 체험을 된 뒤로
말해. 먼저 강사를 된지 아니 신의 철 된 게 그렇지. 그래서 시가라.
네.
오늘 산지 좀 된디 가르송래 쉐라 땡고래 강사를 땡기요 말시도 당보된 고축사디.
So then, the important point here is that the foundation of this, what it's being said to us is don't rely on the person, rely on the Dharma teachings. So that's like right there at the foundation of all of these, this way. But actually, what we tend to do instead is to reverse that, and we tend to, as our kind of foundation, we tend to rely on the person. And then later to rely on the teachings instead of we tend to rely on the person and not the teachings first, instead of relying not on the person but on the teachings that are given.
저장가 아니 세제 다르 세션도 레버 따라가이가 좀 된디기 뽑아던 데에 돈을 숭야디 되게체도록 봤어.
So then the Buddha spoke very sort of correct in a sort of with great confidence when he says to us, check my teachings as a goldsmith would cut and rub the gold, and not out of respect for me, but only after you have checked the teachings. So when that is spoken to us, the Buddha is saying in this regard, check the teachings, and he speaks this with a great sort of confidence or courage.
네 송고에서 조디 말한조 타박 루비 qabla 아니 타박 루비의 똥니디 숭야데 짜침부 차야디 타박 가주 젠드기 삼로 슈심부 차베이나 디츠기 타박 루비의 탑 대조 참말로 짜침부 차기요자 디체도 숨으로 봤어.
And so why is in terms of that wish to attain liberation, then why is there such great emphasis which is placed on understanding of emptiness, and why it's valued so highly, and there's such great emphasis placed on it? And that's because however much we may have the wish to search in order to achieve liberation, in that wish or that search for liberation must also have some kind of method or way in which we're able to actually achieve that. So that's why the emptiness is spoken about as being so important in this process.
So for when we talk about degeneration of Buddha's teaching, and then we defined kind of many things actually, but then at the time of Buddha, there was a great arhat. So when as a monk he goes for begging alms, and then he came to the place where one community where they criticize Buddha a lot, and then they just saying like the Gautama not powerful. He's just giving some sweet talks like to entertain other people, and not that much of power he has, and so on. And as he is a great student and full of magic and powers, Arhat. And then he kind of thought, now if just giving a teaching to them or saying, teaching about bodhicitta and so on, they were not going to buy this. So maybe in order to show who real Buddha is, and maybe I do some magic powers, show the powers that if a student can do something amazing, and automatically they will understand who the teacher can be much more powerful. So then he performs some kind of miracles and powers. So then they got like amazed, like so great, so powerful, and they automatically gain a faith. And then to the student, and of course to the Buddha. And then this kind of the community just praise this Arhat. And then with the, this slogan saying, like in India we say Jai Buddha, like the great Buddha. And then
Go Buddha.
Jindabad. So, and then Buddha was in the meditation, and then he awaked from meditation and asked the Shariputra, what is happening out there? Why there's so much the noise? And then Shariputra informed Buddha about this arhat's behavior. And then Buddha, with a very sad, long face, and then he said, how this is the sign of the degeneration of Buddha Dharma. And then Shariputra asked, why? And then he said, now the people will go through that person. That person is so great, so good, he's big name, powerful, so on. But they will never going to ask the quality, the teaching, the liberation, what is the antidote of suffering. They will not do this anymore. So that's why it is a great message from the beginning. At the time of Buddha, when he spoke about degeneration, it is not just degeneration. When the time of their degeneration of Nalanda, then some people say the degeneration of the Nalanda started when the monks start earning money, and it will start to react so much of love towards the gold and the girls. Those sort of things are there. But at the time of the Buddha, when he started talking about degeneration, is if you search, the way of the Buddhism becomes different, then this is the most greatest danger to the Buddha's teaching. So now let's give a thought about that, and then check how you are finding Buddhism for yourself. Then it opens up so much. Opens the door to see what is how to search teaching of the Buddha. And that, for that reason, I think His Holiness Dalai Lama bring this sequence of how to study this the chapters of the fundamental wisdom. Then one person try to go through the 26th chapter, then automatically their question will be asked. Now,
yeah. So those words where it says this arises from the existence of that will arise from because that was born, this will be born. So those words from the Rice Seeding Sutra in relation to that.
And then automatically it is more like Buddha said, you are your own protector. Then you will try to do your homework a little bit. Right? Yeah. So then the homework is this fully understanding this is happening, this should be happening. So now the real antidote is to bring the antidote is to know the selflessness. And then when you come to this kind of a conclusion, and then you will ask, what is this selflessness? And then 18th chapter talks about it so strongly. And then I normally say this, and we like Simon and we also discuss about that. Even Tantra is so powerful, so necessary, but can wait. Because if you look through all the teachings of the Buddha, and then all the four traditions of the Tibetan schools, all the great masters, they say unless you don't understand the emptiness or the voidness of the object, and you try to think about the using
the view in relation to sort of subjective consciousness,
using
objective consciousness,
subjective consciousness. Sim
the subtle, the presentation of the very subtle forms of mind.
sim tamu tone any 동번일로 제주도 냐버 샤야기 아니 삼로 세야디 랩트에 걸어 요 말이다.
So in terms of going into a single-pointed meditative equipoise on emptiness, it's not really going to work properly if you don't have this also this understanding of the sort of understanding of the view of the of subtle much more subtle forms of mind.
데 인도sambe 말한도 참말로 냐래 유지 따위게 니로텔라야 타 심버지 야고지 준비 쇼텔라 아니 신에 다 단다 이게 사 유진 따위 거로 송야도 참말로 지 가르쳐 그래 라바도 전주심배 되네 안디 나노네 라바도 와기 쳐도 집에 두절라야 믹세기 송샤죠 인도sambe 변한 년도 예랑절로 있나요 되게 답람디 땡요 말을라 디 예랑절로 매용이기 드레스.
And so this so first of all, it's important that before developing these subtler forms of understanding of the view in relation to these subtle minds on the kind of side of the mind side, that we develop this understanding of the view in relation to a sort of object, and these are sort of said to be said to be connected with the Mahayana vehicle and then the tantric vehicle of the and the traditions such as the Hira Hira vehicles, the Hiras from the lower vehicles, they don't present these at all, and there's no sort of engagement with them at all in that side of the practice. That's an understanding. Sorry. Yeah.
다디 인도점에 제장가 가란 쪽이 지름부치기 아니 개회신이 된 쪽도 람름치면 나로리아 아니 개회신이 신인디 지기 가르쳐 그래 강중중기 있어요. 강중중스도 고란리아 다지기 똑바다 연대디다 여여세가 잠시 강중중기 아니 도배 연대 직도 수직이 여바 잠시라 아니 가서 우리 누바세드 yours 라베이나 대잠시기 아니 기회신인기 연대 창요 말이스
기회신이
연대 창요 말이스 가창요 말이스 돈다 하고 좋아
가세
누바체네 강중중스도 딱 지거를 강중중스야디 라면다지 지금 수수기 강 지기 배나 지기 참레디 하고무 예배 손으로 참sam도 전주다 조디 동니지 고아 카야 매베 토네 다음에 좀 뭐지지 콜로 누바다 똑고 용해요.
Yes, so in terms of J. Rinpoche states in his treatise on the stages to the path to enlightenment, in the section where he discusses relying on the spiritual friend, and what he says is that however many sort of qualities, other qualities, and so maybe some realization or other qualities the spiritual friend has, if they haven't got a proper understanding of voidness underlying, then all of those qualities will, in terms of sort of being able to achieve practice properly and sort of making use of those qualities they will not sort of fulfill the correct sort of definition of what it would mean to be a spiritual friend if they have that understanding. They don't have that correct understanding of emptiness.
Whatever the person in front of you has kind of qualities, and realizations, whatever they have, even they can tell you about past and future lives of yours, and that he can say like, I have seen this great master and received this teaching from my visions and so on. Lama Tsongkhapa here clearly says it is not enough to be taken
fully
for
qualified,
you,
fully
for
qualified
you to
spiritual
take
master.
him as our teacher. So then he brings this saying, gewe temba chido tumbe, ani sem tulujuku uris. Gewe ge temba chidang tumbe. Gewe temba chida tumbe. De ha고서 gewe temba chisina. Sanje gi tembe gi Sanji gi sungsha gyogi gyu tuluji. So the teachings of the Buddha, how he taught about how to tame your mind, how the Buddha has taught that your Lama has to be taking this teaching in his life, not something that he receives the teaching and partly some from there, and he says, I have this realization.
Yeah, the teachings of the Buddha, the general teachings and all of the specific teachings of the Buddha, the Lama should have these understanding. And so this is from J. Rinpoche's treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, where it says, if one has not tamed oneself, and there's no possibility for one to be able to tame others, so the Buddha speaks of this, and for a guru who would be able to help to tame and train others, at the beginning they have to. It's essential that they have to train their own mind stream, but so if we think what is this sort of level of taming that there is required, then so it's not, so whatever the sort of siddhis or the accomplishments, whatever the qualities of realizations we sort of possess in our own, that person would possess in their own mind streams, it won't help. It won't be of benefit because they have to have taken, because they have to. It's necessary that they train in the system. They train their mind streams in the system, which is in accord with the general teachings of the Buddha. So whatever other kind of siddhis and other kind of qualities of realization which they are sort of labeled with, that they have the name of having in their mind streams, that won't be of benefit unless they train their mind stream in the system which is in accord with the general teachings of the Buddha, of the conquerors of the Buddha.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
Well, this is a very important message. Very important because and then you will come to even you feel something special, but then you will feel like, okay, looks special, but should I buy that? Right? So then you will see, this is wonderful, wish I have that, but this can be wait. So what I really need is not this one at the moment. So you feel not a kind of necessary. So now necessary is what we really need. Like I always remember this, my teacher's teaching, saying, even we can put effort and get so many realizations, but all the realization can wait until we don't get quite a conviction towards how to bring the self-grasping down. If not, with the full self-grasping, and self-cherishing, we might use all our realization to destroy others' happiness and yours. So this can be weighed. So same thing, this kind of a quality you see in others, you have to ask, is this the quality that I really need? So you need to know that. So this section on the Guru devotion in Lama Tsongkhapa's the part of stages clearly stated there. So you should, if you got the time, you should look. Hoda dire indu zambe tang aranzo. Okay. 다 가서 제상가 다 타바두고 zambe ane 타바두비 갑라 tang aranzo gi tarba 세디 제상가 레다 뇽몰레 타르고 도스 되게 제 뜻려 봐.
Yeah. So when we're thinking in this context of how this wish to attain the liberation at that time, what does it mean to in this context here? We were speaking. What does it mean to in terms of attaining liberation? So it means to attain freedom or liberation from karma and mental afflictions.
제상가 레다 뇽몰레 타르고도 세 게제디 카완 레고도스나 개월에 타르고도스.
So, and then where does that idea of attaining freedom and liberation from karma and mental afflictions come from? Then we need to, in context of that, we need to attain freedom, liberation from birth.
제생각 birth 있어야 돼. 당하란주 풍부하디 풍부하 키운고 요래 풍부시세고로 풍부하 니 키운원체 내 풍부하디게 내가 가르치기도 슬랍도 잠배 아니 단다 가상 아주 계절 중원나시 아니 동이 아마니 민두였디 아니 되게 땡치기도.
And so then in terms of birth, and then we talk in terms then with birth come the five aggregates or the four aggregates, and then what is the sense, what is the problem with that? And as we talked about yesterday, the problem with that is that on the basis of that of those aggregates come all the things which are unwanted.
제가 딘디디 말한저거 할게베 이나야 할게베 이나야 어저체 케미도 가지던서나 단다 코랑 지게 내가 동이 가만히디 매베이나야 동이 가만히 깨버치베기 때 요여버리셔스.
And so even if we're able to be born in sort of in these higher realms, such as in these God realms, then temporarily there's none of the sort of really strong manifest suffering, but they still have the sort of basis, they still have the foundation on which future suffering will then come.
다 딘디기 때 요여디니기 안 타이네레 딸 하베 직직부 쉬거든데 직부 쉬거든데 베네바 친부 쉬거든데 요여디니도 조양 이게 캡라 저기 민도 캡라 캡 refuge.
Oh, yeah, so then therefore we don't take refuge in even the most powerful, the sort of most incredibly powerful gods. We still don't take refuge in those.
아니 in the 30 거사 37 practices of Bodhisattva, in there when it talks about refuge, then Jesse Tome Sangbo said very clearly how can be someone our refuge if he is still in the samsara. Right?
Yeah.
So for that reason, not because like he's a not Buddhist, or not, that is a kind of not a good reason. That is more like the attachment to your own religion. But seeing if that is still in the suffering, in the samsara state, even he's how powerful, how rich, how much power he has, but I cannot take him a refuge, because my urgent need is to get out from the samsara. So people who is in this kind of state, who does not know the antidote, then how can be he might, how can I take him as my refuge? That is what is said in the 37 practices of Bodhisattva. For that reason, Chesanga Dindegi ta Gewadine Targobati, and Gewadi Karigilan Sonsitu, Legichesu. And in Le Telea, and you Roching a senator, Digedi, Nomo Chigatus. That led on Nomo Nilaya, Nimbo Temples and the Penguin, led on Nomo Nigi, and a Keberchi, Tawat over the Masone, Karigichidu, Gunalongi, the Karigichidu, Slana, and a Telea, and a Maribachitus. Mariba di Kasan, that Selujam Donald Ross on Mariba, which would you ever know, Mariba di Tawat over the Masone, that chick, Sangmen Alodu, Spire, Yondini, and Tados and Tangzindri, yes, Lata di Leverba.
And so, in terms of so they're here when we're saying that we wish to be liberated from birth, and then so then understanding that this birth is caused by karma, and then that what brings on the karma is the mental afflictions. But we can't alone it's not possible to just alone be able to in isolation to get rid of those the karma and mental afflictions. So as we were talking about yesterday, looking into the root of the mental afflictions and then the karma, and the understanding this sort of the force, this not motivation but driving force underneath that of the ignorance. And as we discuss, as is discussed in the way it's discussed in the discussed in the Rice Seedling Sutta, that how with that at the root, with that ignorance at the root, then all of the other processes, these unwanted processes, come out from that, and so and then sort of wishing to get at the this root of ignorance, which is the grasping to an inherent existent self.
제상고 텔라다 제르부치기 람존남숭고 나로려야 아니 닌중 깨발라 아니 체디기 나와지다 체치메기 나온다고 그래스 도베 삼로치게 그래스 체디기 나와서야디 저 체디기 아니 지게가 런주겠다 지딩 추지기 샤마를 dro지 아니 세타가랑 모두 삼로 막고지 아니 지게 레준들로 소비 깨와 치만도 판조에 삼로디 땐도 빠지 까딩에 손으로 저랑 저런다 디메브소 그래스 체디기 나와서야디
And so then Jai Rinpoche in his text, The Three Principal Aspects of the Path, talks about the ways in which we develop renunciation. And he talks particularly about developing renunciation in terms of the attachment to the appearances of this life, but also in terms of the attachment to the appearance of future lives, but particularly in relation to attachment to appearance of this life, the thing which really causes us to just completely focus in on the concerns of this life is the 8 worldly concerns. And so then we have to have this real understanding of how and how that causes that to happen, how the 8 worldly concerns cause us to be focused solely on the sort of preoccupations of this life, and then really bringing to mind the fact that we need to put an end to these, that we don't want to let this happen anymore.
다디기 년부터라 체디 나신도에치도 미다바 공고에다 아니 미다바 되나노니 치워 미다바 공베이나 고 정신기 지기 나와디만 도요엔 지요리스.
So then in terms of sort of counteracting this sort of clinging to the appearances of this life, then what's spoken about as which will act as a counteract, an antidote to those, is the particularly the teachings on impermanence, and particularly the teachings on death and impermanence, which will then and very naturally help us to reduce our sort of attachment to or clinging to the appearances of this life.
다 때문에 체디게 나신 도바 점식이야 니종 개비 그 추요 말이스 가전스나 다 개와 치말라양 오코 지가서 그래 랭이 상한치는 도스 저대베이나 아니 가도 체 다가라나 신치지 가족 미르 지단 하게 루이르지 nem베이나야 당동양 코코고 되게 아니 가까야 쪼고들 가르 제고를 다 된저양나 중니 토네 그래서 삼로 당당한 나신시 아니 레준저게 삼로 양양도 당시 당을 개와도 가고도세 아니 신이 된저게 년단 천도 아니 년생권도 타르바 되냐로 세디 어디 레버도 있어 그래서
and so then, but that is only in terms of the preoccupations of this life. But then also, and just having that, even if we're able to sort of counteract our grasping to the appearances of this life or the preoccupations of this life, that still doesn't form a complete form of renunciation, because as we've just been describing. There are future lives. Future lives will still have to take birth in future lives, driven by the process of karma and mental affliction. And wherever we're born, whether we get a precious human rebirth or whether we're born in these as we discussed, a powerful gods or any of these places, then we still. We're still not free. We will still not be free then of the preoccupations, the clinging to the appearances of those future lives. And so then, discussing the cause and effect in relation to karmic cause and effect, but especially. Here, the discussion of the 12 links that helps us the understanding of which encourages us to give up on the clinging to the appearances of future lives as well. And then, if you're able to have that wish to stop birth, so understand wish to stop the process of being continually reborn in samsara, and then if you have that wish day and night to the wish to be liberated from that recurring rebirth in samsara, that's when you can say then renunciation will then you'll have a complete mind of renunciation then.
So renunciation is so great. If only we think about the appearance of this life, thinking about death, not very interesting. Lots of there is some kind of a
negative approach.
Not only negative, but just it's so much kind of depressing. Depressing. But it's if you have so much better thing to do, and then you have this kind of a wish to get kind of a if you have something better to do, let's put it like that way. And then it is worth saying, I shouldn't be still distracted somewhere here and there. I have so much better thing to do. But if you don't have this kind of attitude, if you don't have something that really has inspires you, and then you listen to the teaching where it talks about death and permanence, and then of course it should make you depressed. Of course. So that's the reason. That is the reason. The Nalanta's tradition or the way of teaching is always starts with what is the true truth. Unless you don't understand the true truths, relation of the true truths, then there will be always a problem. In this life, you can see it. So then, of course, in the next life, for sure, if there is one. So then automatically, these all the after understanding or after you come to realize about Four Noble Truth and you wanted to get out of samsara, and then on the top of having this kind of motivation to get out of samsara, thinking about that. Don't just distracted in only this life's appearance. It makes total sense. And then saying like, okay, now why all these unnecessary things are you doing? Because you have to leave. We don't know when you have to leave. So just don't buy so many unnecessary things. And then because we say like, all these things, where are you going to take now? There's a journey, next journey. If you are living in a guest house, and then you won't buy so many things like you buy things in your home. That will be so much problem. Okay, then how are you going to take all this? But then when you feel like home forever, so whatever, then you buy so many things. Not only this place is not enough, then you need a basement and stores and then, right, so many. So like that, just feeling like if you feel there's something greater good things to do in your future, especially preparation for the next life, and then how to get out from this samsara, this clinging mind. And then your focus is something very positive. That's why it says renunciation should be, when does the renunciation become, what kind of mind state when it becomes renunciation is day and night. Lama Tsongkhapa said, day and night you are thinking to get the liberation. Then that is the sign of liberation, the renunciation. Not he didn't say thinking about death every day is a renunciation. No. So now after this, then you feel you wanted to know I wanted this liberation, then how to get it. Then in the order of the three principal aspects of the path, then the great Lama Tsongkhapa will teach about bodhicitta, not the emptiness. But now the sequence today we will do a little different. So we take the bodhicitta for tomorrow, and now today we go to the where Lama Tsongkhapa talks about what is the emptiness. So now he says whether you have a bodhicitta, whether you have an understanding of impermanence, whether you have all other sort of practices of realization or something, but 가자 된다. 인중 청주 셈라 어디래? 인중 청주 셈라 곰제장 가수 콤바체베이나. 인중 청주 셈라 곰제장 저런데 찍더라서. Is it break time? So I will go through this and this stop. 인중 청주 셈라 곰제장 시베 자워르 쮸바 메뉴베 디지 땡데 도베 타베베. 저장가 샤바 카레지기 제베이나 아니 코웨 자와 제투 말이스. 가르전스나 코웨 자와 제발라 코웨기 자와 되던 진당 우주 개베. 로직 마곤발라 탑요 말이스.
So what was it? Jitter? Cause
잡로요. 청주샘 어디?
개베인데.
인중 청주샘라 곰제장.
어디? 어디 나르드죠? 어디? 남순로.
청주샘 어디요?
전습선 오르 말이디.
직치 jorda.
네. 말이. 무슨 좀 건데. 다시 공비 코베 punto 이름은 인신
Divse di wall.
네춘데 양다 샘게디 심범면은 남은 전주세
Di wall 마도. Di wall.
슈터도
Di ma wall.
all 그래. 네
어디.
어디래. I can find it in English.
The English is better. So,
English I have, yeah.
English there. The English did a lot.
Did so even if you don't have the wisdom realizing the ultimate nature, even if you gain familiarity with renunciation and awakening mind, you will not be able to cut the root of samsaric existence, so strive in the means of realizing dependent origination. So here, what you have to, so this is what's so important. If you don't have that understanding or the sort of wisdom which is able to act as a direct counterpoint to the clinging of the grasping, clinging to true existence, if you don't have the directly sort of opposite mind of wisdom, which will act as a wisdom which will be able to cut through the root of samsara, then you actually don't have you will not be able to cut the root of samsara, so you won't have a path to liberation unless you have the wisdom realizing the ultimate nature.
So now, how to look for liberation? Just don't jump like, oh, whiteness. Oh, this is very important. Feel, unless there is no contradiction,
Yeah,
the
no
direct,
contradiction. Yeah,
direct. This is
Yeah,
very
direct,
powerful.
yeah.
Direct, not just a contradiction.
opposite, the direct opposite.
Direct opposite.
Yeah.
Direct
So
opposite.
this will go with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the direct is sort of the mind which directly apprehends in direct counterpoint to the grasping.
Unless I don't have that, then I'm surrendering towards this self-grasping. Then I'm
Surrendering, yeah.
Surrendering to the 12 links. So now that you need to keep in mind. Whenever I am thinking of liberation, asking for liberation, thinking of liberation,
Wishing.
wishing for liberation means I am looking for this antidote of the direct opposite.
Yeah, the direct, which apprehends its object in the direct opposite way to the grasping.
Then you say, oh, bodhicitta very powerful, important, so necessary. But because bodhicitta doesn't have this kind of a contradiction towards this ignorance mind, so it doesn't work like that. So then I really need, in order to bring down this grasping, I need this. So Lama Tsongkhapa give this reason. Okay, now we take a break.
우사지에 벽이 적심에도 잠리다 블링진에데 겐파디 상계싱도 맥데 울바리 저근암닥신라제 파쇼 기에담 구로라나만달라 감리야다야미
다 란조 단계디 타르바스니데 간데 그뒤지기다 직타나냐 별로디 아니 조디 다도 좀 등진들레 타나세 삼로디 쇼고에 누점베 아니 등진들레 타르바세야디 등진대다 진당 오수기베 로지 말하기 마토기 봐도 만약에 봐도 가수지기 아니 탑람 샤바지레 템베이나 아니 미용아지레스니 아니 디기 자와디신 거랬어.
And so now here when we're talking about this wish for the liberation, and then how. So then thinking about what is that liberation, or when does that, how does that, or when does that liberation take place? And for that wish for liberation, it must be a wish for liberation which is a liberation from the self-grasping. And in order to have a liberation from that self-grasping, we have to have a mind which is in direct opposition to the mode of apprehension of the self-grasping. And if we don't have that kind of mind, then there will be no way to attain liberation. So we have to have this real sort of understanding that unless we have this mind in direct opposition to self-grasping, then there is no way for this this liberation which we wish for to come about.
다 디인도 점배 다 된제기 지난 제르무치 송대도 스토베이나 아니 년중 청주스입니다. 거기 스베 자월 줘면 네베 아니 디인도 점배 다이네 디거도리야 제르무치기 운에치나 스베 자월 줘베 제도 동리 공쇼 송고에 주요래데 제르무치기 디나로리야 덴제 도베 탑레 송르와
Did
덴젤 도베 탑레 디나도
and so in here, so looking at here at J. Rinpoche's way of explaining this, which is which is in relation to here we've been talking about in the 9th verse of three principal aspects of the path, and where he talks here in that 9th verse about if you don't cultivate, even if you have renunciation or bodhicitta, if you don't have the mind realizing the ultimate nature, you will not be able to cut the root of samsaric existence. And so, and therefore, you must strive in the means of realizing dependent origination. So here he's explaining this great importance of the way in which we're able to cut the root of samsara.
디지 덴제 도베 탈라베 아니 가서 지좀 나와
Nelo double share
다들
Oh no, sorry. The kanshi code chötam tamshige.
간시 이거만 잘 들어봐.
Kanshi code chötam.
간시 콘데 주나 탐제기 균전놈이 로아메 통신 미베 떼속하니 권시버드네 상제제베 남라 쇼스 다 디인도 좀베 덴제 도베 탈베 송고에게 nen가데 베 전부지 차고요래 가르치는스나 말하는 저 남상 아니 등진디 까고리 시두점베 아니 등진 까베 쇼들다 저지 땅베이나 다도 좀베 등진디 빠까 코랑교 뇌뇌 여바데 까베 쇼라 안 가야마 통한시 대고 그베 저바디 레고고로 내잖아.
And so in relation to this where it says in the last in the English translation, it's in the last line of the 9th verse where it reads, so strive in the means of realizing dependent origination. And so here we have to think about what is that method, the means or the method that it allows us to realize dependent origination. And then if we just so if we just understand that we have to put an end to, we have to cease the self-grasping, this self-grasping that clings to inherently existent self, a self that exists from its own side. If we only come at this from that perspective, then what will come to mind is, well, once I've sort of put an end to that kind of clinging, do I not sort of see, is there nothing at all? Do I not see anything at all after that?
다 디기 렌델라야 아랑아란주 지단에 가서래 동이주비 리바망 모주에 나로네 아니 지기 올주베 직도제 된지세야 손로다 귤주베 도지 세메 된지세야 손로다 망보주요데 아니 리바 탐제기 나는 초도 주바데 가르레 개보다보데 가르레 슬라베나 된제기 리바데레스.
And so in terms of normally what's explained, the way that these things are explained in the text in terms of these means to realize emptiness and dependent originations, it talks particularly talks about the means, the reasons which are used in order to prove and establish emptiness. And there are many, the whole variety of different sort of reasons and sort of logical syllogisms which are used in order to explain this. There's the, for instance, there's the reason which analyzes the entity of phenomena, which is the reason of being neither inherently one or neither inherently many. There's the reason which analyzes the result, such as the diamond splinters argument. But within all of those reasons to prove the emptiness, the one which is like the king of all of those reasonings, the best reasoning within all of those, is the reason of dependent origination.
제가 콜러직비 개호세디 nenga다부터 치슈디 가르쳤으나 콜러 타니세비 네바요레스.
So then the reason, the sort of main point of why we term that reason the king of reasons is because it's able to able to remove or eliminate both of the two extremes.
제가 디유전에 제가 tendes during the pandemic time, one time the private office asked me that this our Gilug Association requested His Holiness teaching during the pandemic through online. So they asked me if I have a question right after the teaching. Then I kind of respectfully say no, but then somehow, because asking His Holiness a question, like I feel like not ready, his answer would be like incorrigible, but I didn't earn this question very strongly, so I have hesitation towards it. Then I say I don't have, but somehow they thought, I don't know how the message they got, I'm on the list. And then they say, Rinpoche, make the question short, clean, and then finish in like in 2-3 minutes. And maybe there are a few other lamas who has a question. So, and then I thought like, now I could not say no. Yeah. So then I checked. I was thinking what kind of question should I ask and so on. So many stupid questions comes, and then automatically no, I couldn't ask this to His Holiness because I don't connect this to I didn't do this kind of homework. And then I was thinking the best way to ask a question is now maybe I checked with my teacher and what will be the best question, not only for me, for all the listeners. And then I informed my teacher, and my teacher said, instantly, he said, he's ready, he's so ready for me, and he's ready for the question, He said, do you ever wonder, in the 3 principal aspects of the path, when Lama Tsongkhapa said, bodhicitta and all the other, the great the qualities, but it does not have a power or to eliminate the self-grasping. And then, because normally what reason that Lama Tsongkhapa has given is there is not direct opposite.
They're not in direct sort of counterpoint. They're not in direct opposition to the grasping. And
then Lama Tsongkhapa, even he's saying this, then he said, in order to bring down, to eliminate this self-grasping, and then we should meditate on dependent origination. Right? 제가 dependent origination, tenje dang, tenje de duk samotang ba ina. 텐데 세대당 아니 나도 좀 등진이디 진당고서 기울로 말해봐.
So then, if you look at this, then it seems that the mind sort of realizing dependent origination, and then it doesn't seem to be sort of direct. Its mode of apprehension is not in direct opposition to that of the the grasping which clings to an inherent self.
그래서 텐데디 가봐 보라 말봐.
So it's because first of all, it's not a negation.
제상가 지기 나가주마 손에 데 다도 집에 등심에 써야라 안 되는 진당 어서 기베 로디 청주sem단 저로 요마리 송균송균이라 아니 당동양 아니 루바지 케용치 인디안 텐제 지케용치 텐제 공바티기 아니 가서래 코여 자와지 송도와.
And so then if we say here that all those other kinds of minds, such as renunciation, bodhicitta, these other kinds of sort of realization, or are which are sort of they're stated in a positive way. They're not sort of stated in negative. Sort of in a negative way, stated in a positive way, and so they don't have the power to directly counteract the self-grasping. But then here we bring this reason and the mind understanding dependent origination, and somehow that is able, although it's also sort of stated in a positive statement, does have the power to overcome the self-grasping. So that seems contradictory.
So he gives this kind of a question, this kind of debate to His Holiness. Super kind. So I am the one. That's actually my teacher was thinking a lot and I wasn't thinking a lot. And then it sounds very stupid, like it is somebody's hard work, this question. And then now you are in the middle person who does not have a good understanding at all, and then taking this question and giving to His Holiness. I still have this picture that His Holiness going very seriously listening, and I was just with like that asking. And then one of the best teaching I ever got from His Holiness is saying, he said, that is always I'm saying about this. So, first of all, when you get that kind of answer, you feel like, oh my goodness, Very good teaching. So, he said, this is what normally I always say, Then he says, in order to now give this answer, then 빼말되봐요. 그 전에 라마를 붙이. 전에 라마를 붙이기 빼말되봐 나로라.
The praise to the
벨마르사.
praise to the
pelma.
Yeah, so the praise to the Avatansaka Sutra.
빼말되봐. 전에 라마를 붙이거다.
Chinna Lamram, it's a text by Chinna Lamram.
Yeah. His Holiness favorite quotation. 땐 세워되기 주님이 돌봐주고 그랬어. 주님이 돌봐주고 그랬어. 그죠?
So this the dependent in here means
주님이 돌봐. 주님, 동니, 주님. 미토로바.
So yes, so mitora. So that means that syllable in the dependent means not to cast away the suchness. And origination. So it's in accord with the way the world sort of works.
제상가 땐델 셰바디게 고아되나 롤라야 주니게 고아되야 창댕에.
So there's a full, complete understanding within that phrase. There's a complete understanding of emptiness, of voidness.
델 셰바디기 아니 가서로 펑션 제토바.
Yeah. so that sorry in that statement dependent there's a complete understanding of voidness, but in the origination part of that there's a complete understanding of the way that things can function.
So His Holiness give this, recite this quote, and then say, you now try to think more on this, then you will get answer. So then, now even His Holiness said this, but I didn't earn this kind of a answer. But then I went back to my teacher, and then my teacher saw this online, and then he's very normal. He knows that this could be the answer from His Holiness. So then he told me, so now what do you think? And then he asked this difficult question, now what I'm supposed to think. It's like a blank. And then my teacher said, well, 제장가 딜이다. 남샤균도 마란족이 똥반이라 가수지기 아니 곰지템베이나양 다도 좀 등진리야 아니 네 투비하지 마도 다도 좀 등진라 네 고단데 가르치는 인슬라베이나 등진께바 다가란 게 아니 가 메주 트라단 것도 세지 깨져지고 막 임바 있나요 등진 디기 최기 군주기 니로 통야라 군주기 니로 통야라 딥기두스
누기두스
군주기 덴베게 남샤 통발라 딥치기두스
딥치기다. So he said this very interesting way of explaining it, where he said that in terms of just this pure understanding of emptiness, then so that that the however much familiarity we gain with this understanding of this voidness, then we it not only can't destroy the self-grasping just alone like that, but also it does bring some. It's just as it just only the emptiness. Tony Bashiki. Yeah, so only seeing the emptiness. That, even however much familiarity you cultivate with that, will not be able to destroy your self-grasping. And not only will it not be able to destroy your self-grasping, it will also be a kind of a harm which comes, and we're not talking about the harm to our sort of lives and difficulties and things in our life per se. What we're talking about is it will actually cover over, it will obscure our understanding of the conventional truth, of the conventional reality. If you only see mere emptiness, you only see emptiness, only that aspect.
디임비천에
군수기 덴바 통을
군주 덴바 통발라 아니 가리기 디부도 슬라베이나 동이 립세케요 말바 과전서는 다도 좀 등진된 덴바도바 짐바디기 가리 디부도스나 군주기 니루티 디버치도
and so if you're cuz
군주기 니루
cuz 짐바데기 가마tum나 코디 cuz je dis son to quand on est en samedi quand on in date zimbi dans un gato mendus
다도 좀 배당선 디기 교양 가르치기도 쓰나 짐바 지고 교양 말이스 다도 짐바 지고 디기 레 지기 사용도 직세 지고 말이스 유기 니주 지마 지신 통발라 지기도스 유기 니주 지마 지신 세야디 가르르스나 군주비 최시켜요체 최왕제 아세야디 군주비 최로 봐 아세야디 군주비 최로 봐 군주비 최기 니로 야고지 마신베 이나스 세야디 다도 짐바 지구 계점mem체 다도 짐베기 니주지 야고지 마시나 아니 얘기 디디블 텔 때니 니 레사기도 시리 또 얘기 다도 마짐바 잠시기 아니 디기도 마 계점mem체 다도 짐바 디 야고지 하고지 빵마토나 얘기 군주기 취업이 자화재산의 힘금에도
so sorry, so you can't get rid of this you won't be able to get rid of the self-grasping merely with only an understanding of emptiness. And then what's the problem with that? If you leave that self-grasping sort of not completely removed or harmed, then it's not just the things we talk about in terms of what self-grasping causes just to problems in our lives, but it is the problem is that self-grasping obscures our ability to be able to see the way that the conventional phenomena are. So if you bring a conventional phenomena such as the self, and if you're then you won't be able to know with that, as long as that grasping to an inherent nature is not destroyed, you won't know what the conventional reality of a conventional phenomena such as the self is. So you won't. You'll, of course, and on the basis of that, you'll create karma and all those things. But one of the worst problems of the self-grasping is that it obscures the conventional reality. So then you're not able to actually understand functionality and think as well because you have not harmed the self-grasping.
So for that reason, when we talk about true truths, all the object has a true truth, not only one truth. If we say in order to reduce self-grasping is the only answer, then we only need one truth, ultimate truth, that's it. Fine. But then after that, then what? That's the big question. Then you say emptiness has to help you to understand how the things really function. Then it becomes the complete picture. Then unless I don't see the emptiness fully, the complete picture of emptiness, then I couldn't understand how the dependent origination. 제상가 디 인도 점배 단다 경고를 지기 예 그뒤에 시기 봐 송야디 제상가 댄스야 되기 준이 생에 되기 고아들래고 요래 스탠스 아니 델 세바 되기 아니 최도 쪽에 자와 제당다 아니 고랑 용어 데바니바디르와 오 디기 니주디 마토베지고 하네 아니 동리도 공부였으라나 제장가 그런 동리 가르치는 공부유 스튜던트 덴제 세보 통해 체도 다카도시는다 덴제 추 세보시는 체도 예 동리 공부였어 얘기 능생 점 방법 체도 얘기 내로도 동리도 얘기시면서.
Yes, so in terms of this, the way in which His Holiness answered my question was by saying, well, I've spoken about this many times, and then referred to the how the dependent, the word dependent in dependent origination refers to your sort of understanding of suchness, and how the origination of the term relation there explains the sort of way of the functionality, the way in which things can function. And so here you have in that sort of explanation of the word dependent origination, you have an explanation of the two different the two truths. And if you're not able to see if you're not able to see this in the context of this explanation of both the suchness and the ability to perform function, so because if we ask why do we meditate on emptiness, then you have to be able to answer that the reason why you meditate on emptiness is to be able to clearly see. To more clearly see dependent origination, and we should not answer that by saying that it's just in order to try to sort of get rid of the self-grasping. It should be the meditation on emptiness should be used as a way to further clarify our understanding of dependent origination. That's how His Holiness was sort of implied by His Holiness's answer.
So. 제상가 된제 인도 전에 딘종 레야 딘종라 타니 세베 너바 타직 세마임바 다 남샤 준동 안주 리고 망보치 당해야 돼 배나 어울리 주버 직 투리기 된지로 보죠 상마당 바이나 아니 요거 쳐진 랑신지 뭐도데 아니 랑신기 주베 직 랑신기 주베 타데 딘니 강론나로라 아니 랑신기 주베 제니 니그민도 실라도 젬베 아니 신에 랑신지 민도 실 랍다 두고 요르데 얘나야 당동양 가를 랍두고 요 말에 시도 젬베 아니 때에 답을 주요 요래 세리게 제 시도요 말
here this in relation to this sort of reasoning and the way of developing our understanding of dependent origination, and
yeah, okay, go on.
okay, so in relation to this way in which we talked about how the reason and the understanding and the reasons used for proving dependent origination are able to remove both of the two extremes, not just one extreme, but two extremes, then in the other forms of reasoning, such as the reasoning which analyzes the entity of phenomena, the reasoning and the way that the logical syllogism is presented is that you take a sprout, it doesn't have any inherent existence because it's neither inherently one nor is it inherently many, and we can so that's the way that syllogism is presented, but then that doesn't allow us. That only allows us to explain the sort of empty nature of things. It doesn't allow us to explain the way in which things exist in dependent relation to others.
Can you pass the
mic to Alex? Yeah.
About this Sanskrit. I need a backup.
Right. No, the backup for this is pratitya samutpada. So samutpada is relying, but pratitya is made of two parts. Prati is first, and itya has come. And so prati, what is first, is the understanding of voidness. It's the first thing, it's the deepest thing. And itya, what comes, is things arising. So the conventional truth, so functionality, things come from something else. So this does derive from the Sanskrit.
Okay. So Sanskrit is known as the language of Haike, the deities.
The divine language.
Holy language.
Yeah.
So now we are in a kind of safe way. 대인도 잠배 제장가 마람 쪽에 제장가다 튕규비기 따와데 짜침부 지부지 차그 요래세 깨져디 가만에 차그래 성부 얘기 섬주체나 가자 동번이 땐라 파바 점식이 말해 동번이 땐라 파비야 돼서 이게 다 지기 동번이 타니 따기 유나면나 지기 땅매기 마 남샤 시원도 잠배 제라마원에 송대
So in terms of why should we really value this Prasangika Madhyamaka view as being really great and important, and in my opinion, I think it's not because of just from merely determining what it means to be, what emptiness means, sort of because whether they're actually really be considered to be full sort of explanations of emptiness or not, but from all the way up from the Vaibhashikas through all of the different schools, there's these presentations of what selflessness means. So just from that side of determining what emptiness means, I don't think that alone is not a reason to value the Prasangika school in such a high way.
빠데다와 잡았다. 공부루두기 아니 두다 오만줄마 껬마 송베갑래 껬 땅베갑래야 아니 강사스니데 snyede ani kanrijiliya nga ngunzin chigi yosla dusembe en lok susu gi nga snyede ni 풍부 ngöne sharawon dusembe 풍부 ngöne 축도도 두바 지 강사 생지 고그리스 제제 다 랑교와 민지기 아니 남시에 아니 tene magyo gowa dene mahandrosuna ani sugle zugsadenje yorba.
And so, in terms of when Nagarjuna and then these great Indian masters, Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti, were sort of examining the tenets of the sort of lower system, their tenet holders, and then sort of in examining the way in which they present the self, what it means to how they recognize the self, how do they identify this I, and from with all of these tenet holder systems below the Prasangika, from the Svartantrika, Madhyamaka and down, they all have some form of presentation of the I being substantially solidly from the side of the aggregate. So whether they posit that as being a sort of the mental consciousness, or whether lower down in the systems there is sort of form, but they all have this way of explaining this in their presentation of the self, that it is from the side of the aggregate. So for it's within one of the aggregates.
제상가 하바도 랑규보다 팅규 보르고 쩌바디 명도 차슈 거를 차르고 있으네. 단다 코랑기 뇌네 요새지. 코랑을 떼니 요새야당 코랑기 뇌네 요새니디 예와 숙침부지 마체베체체 랑규비기 코랑기 뇌네 요바다 코랑 떼니 요비기 내당디 로지 데지 송베레 이나양 반년다와 잡이기 마 달로벨 인덴젤이야 아니 난용도 송해야 돼 왜냐면 가르치는 계란기 가죽이 떼네 따스 지지 지기 가르쳐 그래 떼네 중화에서 가죽이 지기 송베 이나양 코랑기 뇌네 요바디 까마토나 딜레 떼네 요세
and so, in terms of the this very sort of complex debate between the Svartantrika Madhyamaka school and the Prasangika Madhyamaka school regarding, particularly in relation to things existing from their own side, and this point sort of comes down to the explanations of the different schools in terms of existing from something existing from their own side and something existing by in relation to another. And for the Prasangika Madhyamaka school, so I'm not sure whether the debates which took place between Chandrakirti and Bhava Viveka. I'm not sure if Bhava Viveka was the only one who sort of brought up this difficulty, but within Svartantrika Madhyamaka, what you see is that the existing from its own side and existing in relation and by way of relation seem to be very, very similar. Whereas Chandrakirti is saying in opposition to that view that however much you say or you talk about things as existing by in dependent relation with others, if you still are not able to refute, or you still hang on to the view that things exist from their own side, then however much you talk about dependent relation, it's not actually, it's not a kind of, it kind of doesn't make sense. Right?
It doesn't make it. Yeah. Even it kind of makes sense, but you are not completely understanding the full definition of the dependent origination. So the best example is the reflection and the face in the mirror. So we could say the face does not the ranjugi and the tongbadi shigungune sharba marabas.
So the face doesn't appear from the side of the mirror.
그 시공원에 샤르 라베기나 아니 디 아주 될 때네 아주 동바 될 때네 피게 나로라 디다 체베 dob기 네 동바 샤르스 랍고예요 말이스.
So then you couldn't, if you were to say that the face appeared from the side of the mirror, then you would not also be able to have this presentation where you said that the reflection appearing in the mirror occurred only because of the face and the mirror coming together.
저정가 때네 딱스 랍차베 슈고라 디기 조 가르지에 원시도 잠베 코랑 경면에 받지 요르스.
So then if you say that something is merely designatedly imputed in merely designated, then you've already sort of excluded the possibility of something existing from its own side.
So this Chandakirti, why he is focusing so much on that, who gives this teaching to Chandakirti is Buddha Palita. Buddha Palita left one piece of note there saying, if things does exist by its own, then why it has to depend on Ra?
Yeah, why it has to rely on why does it have to rely on something else if it exists from its own side?
So the whole debate, this clear word, debating with the Madhyamika, the Madhyamika inside the big debate, because of Chandakirti hold the teaching of the Buddha Palitas, this the quote, very deep inside his heart. So then from that, now I think because Chandakirti becomes so famous on, now maybe it's a good time to look at the 17 Nalanda Pandita's prayer, where it talks, where His Holiness the Dalai Lama prays Chandakirti.
Okay, Chandakirti.
Tenje deba tsamnyegi tangi 7 nangdong umyesu verse 6 you look at it. Now read it.
I'll get it up. Yeah. Won't you can read? Yeah, you read it.
Yeah, read it.
You got it.
I make requests to you, Chandrakirti, propagator of the complete path of Sutra and Tantra, skilled in expounding the vast and profound Madhyamika manner whereby, through dependent arising and conditionality, and exclusively by this, appearance and voidness eliminate the two extremes.
The Hindu zambe the tell tene and shine ta uma tingyubigi tawa suljebres. The papa the pandan dawa tabadi and uma tingyubi shingdisunje in se what there is.
So on the basis of that, we talk about how the Chandrakirti is the Prasangika Madhyamaka, so the how do you use Shindasochi, the pioneer or the pioneer of the Prasangika Madhyamaka system.
Now if you look at His Holiness Dalai Lama's praise to the this 17 Nalanda Panditas, so whoever holds the lineage of the Prasangika school, he will always add something dependent on origination. And then other masters like Baba Viveka and then Shantarakshita, he will not praise because you said dependent origination, because there's no line on that. Shizanga.
So Rinpoche, so sorry, I missed a bit there. So Rinpoche said that within this praise, where it says about dispelling the two extremes through a dependent origination, but also through by understanding dependent origin, of how the fact of conditionality in dependent origination, and because of that reason that he explains it through that way, is the reason that he becomes the pioneer of the Prasankika Madhyamaka system.
Okay. So now, maybe we could say this is the essence and the proponents, the teaching of the 18th chapter. 18th chapter.
There you go. Short, summarized version.
Very cheap. Yeah. Anyway, now the biggest thing after this, now you have understanding the way of approach, how to investigate into the emptiness. Okay, without knocking on, without not having any awareness of a dependent origination, you try to how much you put emphasis or effort to know the voidness. It's just like one wing try to fly. So in order to fly, we need two wings. So the one wing is the voidness or the emptiness, and then the dependent origination. That helps this wing has to help the dependent origination thinking. When you think about dependent origination, and this other wing, which is has to strengthen together, and then you can fly. This I didn't just make this up. At the end of the Chandrakirti's 6th chapter, he give this example.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got it. I've got it.
군주티니 샹양가고 제교봐. 망비 제부티니 제외 망바이 든두다니 계획은 슈도비 계획인데 자주 바로 쳐도 들어서들.
Yeah, I haven't got it in my head, if you know what I mean. I have it in my computer, which is not the same, obviously. Hang on a sec. So it talks about it's from the taken from the 6th chapter, the end of the 6th chapter of Chandrakirti's entering into the middle way, and sorry, I've got it. Gosh, I lost it. Is it translate? Oh, here it is. Sorry. Yeah, here it is. So read. Okay. Why is it not here?
You tell hey Siri.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll get it from Jimpa's original. So it's the translation I've got here is from Tudun Jimpa. And so it reads. Hang on, give me one moment. I don't have this verse in my head. I should have it in head, but I don't. Here we are. So 6th chapter of the Pagi Tamade.
6th chapter Tamade.
Tamade. And so it says, it's like it's like a preview or something. Get you all excited. There we go. And so it says, like the king of swans soaring ahead over other accomplished swans, with white wings of conventional and ultimate truth spread wide, propelled by the powerful winds of virtue, the bodhisattva would cruise to the excellent far shore, the ocean-like qualities of the conquerors. Did it? Tama.
So that's why with this knowing of two truths, then you will get to the liberation, also to the full enlightenment. This is the only two wings that can give us the ability. So that's the takeaway from that. So now I think now this the most important, then the chezanga tongbani di 다 아니 간대질라는 동반이 시지 띵중 야고지 고야게 체도 아니 동바시도 좀 동반이다 나 다음에 봐서 남샤도 망보 주어를 아니 우마 팅규비기 따와 안데 띵중 고와 참어라야게 체도 아니 동바디 간대지 고고래 시도 좀 아니 신에 다 단다라지 접지게 나로라야 아니 동바 통주되라 동바 통주세보다 동바 통주되라 아니 파베기 파베 동반이 쓰죠. 아니 란주 수수기우스는 들어와. 수수기우기 아니 동반이 통주시지. 런반이 송베 토네. 아니 준비가 남샤선 잡지. 다 파베 냠샤 된지 통년전은 아니 소지게 남샤 동니 된지 통지야 로그로 해서 수죠.
And so, in terms of thinking about, we've stated here that this our understanding of emptiness needs to really inform and strengthen our understanding of dependent origination. But then looking at that, how to get a very good understanding of this topics such as selflessness and emptiness, and that's where and understanding the this in relation to the Prasankika Madhyamaka's presentation of subtle dependent origination. So what kind of emptiness what kind of emptiness are we talking about there? And then if we look in then in the 18th chapter of Nagarjuna's Fundamental Wisdom and the commentary by Chandrakirti, what we see is that there is Chandrakirti gives us a description of two different ways in which to see emptiness. One which is in relation to the Arya beings, the beings on the path of seeing and above, and one for ordinary beings in the way that they see emptiness. So there are two stages in terms of the way to see emptiness, and one important point that's made here is that those two stages have a kind of cause and effect. So because of the 냠샷단 제톡도
말이야. 네 미게디 와도 균제기 남샤로 붙이스. 그데 냠샤 동니 통당데 동니 통당들봐. 동니 통당데 아니 파베 세버 따르기 아니 니주디 셴발라 인년라 소제기 동니 통주디 셴고리스.
Oh yeah, so it goes in. So these two stages are linked, and so it says in order to be able to see the emptiness in the way that which the Arya beings in their meditative equipoise see emptiness, then that is the result or the cause. Then in order to as a result, then the cause of that is to see the emptiness in the way at the beginning, in the way that the ordinary beings see the emptiness.
제정로 가지고 ordinary being 들어와 동유 통주세에 가르쳐도 덴젤 미뉴베 토네 아니 동번이 대할 파베들.
So this, in terms of then we talk of what is the sort of ordinary beings' weighing of seeing emptiness. This is a way in which they determine what the meaning of emptiness, but not whilst not causing any harm to the sort of dependently originated side.
되네 가로지네 콜로리아 동번이 되기 덴젤 미뉴베 토네 딜레 녀바 축축부 장원도 잠베 아니 로디 동니 통야게 로디 그런 슈치르 로디 잠베 아니 군주비 쇼르 마네베 토네 동니딜레 니낭 노비야기 참들레몬도 아니 신에 파베스 버다기 아니 동니 통주세 되게지 중국어 접지접지들 주어지.
So then in the 18th chapter, then it works through this process of describing how first of all, you develop this strong understanding of emptiness in a way in which it's an explanation or determined way you explain emptiness so that it doesn't harm the conventional reality, doesn't harm conventional phenomena. And then as you start to increase your understanding and ascertainment of that emptiness, and that becomes stronger and stronger, and then eventually it'll become so this understanding of emptiness, which doesn't harm dependent origination, as its strength increases more and more, then eventually this becomes the non-dual understanding of emptiness, which is the understanding of emptiness, the way of seeing emptiness of the Aryas.
Okay, so now we stop here, and then so the next session we will do some question and answer, and then and now we have this to take a picture together.
Take a
Okay?
picture.
Bring your all best smile.
Bring your best